Hola, hola, muy buenas a todos, aquí yo sé con un nuevo episodio y creo que va a ser el último de The Outer Worlds, porque ya vamos a viajar al Tártaro. Estás a punto de asaltar el laberinto en Tártaro y decidir el destino de la colonia de Alcyon. Si guardas la partida tras cruzar este punto, solo podrás terminar la historia principal en Tártaro. Las misiones secundarias y el contenido descargable, peligro en Gorgonia o asesinato en Erídano, no estarán disponibles para las partidas guardadas después de este momento. Si hay algo que quieras hacer antes de acceder a la prisión, hazlo antes de cruzar el punto de retorno. ¿Quieres continuar? Sí. ¿Quieres guardar? No. ¿Seguro que quieres continuar sin guardar tus progresos? Sí. Acabo de cargar la partida, así que...
Please be advised that the punishment for trespassing is execution. Please be advised that electrical storms on the surface of Tartarus make departure impossible at this time.
Tengan en cuenta que ¿sabes algo útil sobre Tártaro?
Resident count is as follows: 3,071. Resident deaths, including but not limited to executions, are as follows: 1,684. Resident escapes are as follows: 0. The interior can be chilly. Take a scarf with you, Captain. I would also ask that you leave your captain's ID with me, in the event that you do not return. Understood. If you die or are incarcerated for life, I can generate a new ID for the next captain. I would prefer if you return, though.
Hija de puta.
Oh, speak of the devil. Captain, I am receiving a transmission from the prison's docking authority now.
Attention, unauthorized spacecraft. This is a maximum security installation. Your presence here is an explicit violation of UDL corporate policy. You are hereby confined to your docking platform until a ticket detailing your crimes has been filed and notarized, at which point your vessel will be seized and you will be executed. I'm sorry, you people? Did you just cast a generalization on upstanding UDL employees? That's a fine of 200 bits. You're up to 5,708, not including the cost of your execution and the disposal of your remains, which will be assessed posthumously. Wait, you're the stylist? Thank the law you're here. Everyone knows how particular the chairman is about his eyebrows. Here, take my biometric ID instead.
Qué pringado, loco.
Anyway, Tartarus Docking Authority signing up. Hang on. Another ship just pulled into your dock. Wait, is that from the Groundbreaker? What the? Pay no mind to that. Just have a pleasant day.
Transmission terminated. Biometric ID received. Transferring data to external cartridge. How can I be of assistance? I request you do not wake me if I am sleeping upon your return.
Bueno, pues es la hora. Lo siento, pero voy a ir con mi personal de confianza. Y bueno, hemos llegado a Tártaro. A ver cuánto nos conlleva esto. Es muy fácil, ¿o no? Tun, 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 ¿qué será? ¿Qué será? Tun, 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 ¿qué será? ¿Qué será? Pam, 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 pam. Ya está. ¿Qué será? ¿Qué será? ¿Qué será? ¿Qué será? Hemos llegado.
The captain did right by us once. Now,
¿Qué ha pasado?
our own groundbreaker. Not while I breathe. Push on, Marga.
Qué bueno. ¿En serio? Hostia. Pues sí que... Hijo de puta. Vale, pues es mejor con el disfraz. Tum, tum, tum. Bueno. Vamos a ver. ¿Qué tenemos por aquí? Saber tu tornete de sigilo desbloquea ataque sigiloso. Venga, esta vez voy a ir tranquilo por allá. Revientan, ¿eh? Sí, revientan. De todas formas llega cuerpo a cuerpo también. Soy imbécil. Con mi equipo. Lo siento mucho. Tum, turrum, tum, tum, turrum, tum, 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 turru, turru, tum, 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 turrum, tum, tum, tum. Uy, 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 uy. La espalda. Ah, shit. Defeat O Force. Venga, déjate de rollo. Vámonos.
the captain did right by us once. Now,
Sí, sí, ustedes mátense que yo
not while I
sigo con
breathe.
lo mío. Hasta
Push
luego.
on, Marga.
Sí, sí, sí. Vámonos.
Doesn't have the bars when it's got
Muy bien.
a storm like that guarding the gates.
I've got to admit, I'm not too keen on walking into a prison. They lock me up, I'm liable to kill everyone trying to get back out. Whew. We have a lot of shooting to do, Captain.
Sí, un poco. Vale, ¿puedo bajar por aquí o por aquí? Anda, ¿no? Hola. ¿Qué tal, camarada? No te preocupes, ya corto camino. Au.
Beginning crime. Error.
Mierda.
Employee information not found. Identify yourself. Error. Transfer request not found. State your employer. Registered. A fine of 10,000 bits will be assessed in your corporation's ledger for failure to follow transfer procedures. Thank you for your cooperation.
De nada. Vaya, pues. Anda, mira. Ah, claro que no está. Qué pringado. Yo me voy a subir y todo rápido. Uy, ya están aquí conmigo. Qué rápido. Bien. Bien. Transición a el foso. He guardado... O sea, he guardado no. Si algún día obtengo el DLC, pues cargo la de fuera de Tártaro y ya está. Antes de entrar a Tártaro. Y no hay problema. Creo. Nivel 29, de puta madre. Que por cierto, aplicar. Vámonos. Tengo que llegar allá.
All right, MSI. I'm not one for rousing speeches, but the captain needs our help. So get in there and fight!
Something... Are you new here? I didn't think we were hiring more staff. Oh, that's great. Thank you, sir. Much appreciated. I'll get out of your way.
Muy bien. Creo que era allí.
Waste of company. I don't see what the fuss is about a blasted lab coat. Fugitives and fugitives. The chairman. I'm moving in. Waste of company ammo.
Looking good. Who's that?
What?
Me he colado, que
Take a
venga.
breath now, folks. Once we're up there, I suspect we ain't gonna have time to stop shooting.
After all you've done, all the work you've destroyed, all the money you've cost me, your misguided crusade has doomed Halcyon. That crackpot's plan is ludicrous. We have steps, action items, budgets, and reports. All he's got is a guilty conscience and lofty dreams. In any other circumstance, I'd admire your boldness. In this one, however, I have only 2 words for you. Fuck off. How dare you? Even thinking about killing the chairman of the Halcyon board is a felony. Thankfully, you're in a prison already. Find the nearest cell and wait until I'm done here. Then I'll drag you to the executioner myself. Is that what you think you're doing? This path of wanton societal disruption? You call that being a savior? I call it sabotage. You know what saboteurs get, Captain? Summary executions. In the next room is the finest automechanical purveyor of death ever made. Try not to scratch the paint with your skull. It was fucking expensive.
Cuando te quieras dar cuenta, estaré allí. Sellada. Y abrir. Hostia, 2020. El año que acabo de pasar. Mierda. Joder, macho. Hijo de puta.
Get me out of here!
What, chaval?
You don't know how glad I am to see you. You lunatic. You broke into the board's own fortress and killed the chairman just to rescue one doddering old man? You are absolutely out of your mind, and I can't begin to thank you enough. Ah, all in a day's work for you, huh? You've broken the board's stranglehold on this colony, and you saved my life. But there's still so much we have yet to accomplish. You and I are going to have to work harder than ever to save Halcyon. I'm afraid the situation is far worse than any of us ever anticipated. I would like nothing more than to celebrate this victory, but we have a serious problem on our hands. Earth has gone dark. We haven't received a single message in 3 years. There's been no communication, no signals, nothing. 2 years ago, the Earth's Directorate's frigate disappeared on their way back to Earth. We don't know what they discovered when they arrived, or if they arrived at all.
So we've got to make do on our own. Seems to me that'll make us stronger in the end anyhow.
You're quite right. We've got no choice but to make do on our own.
You mean we're all alone out here? Really alone?
I'm afraid so, Miss Holcomb. Halcyon is the only home we have left. Returning to Earth is no longer an option. We're in serious trouble, my friend. Do you know what this means for Halcyon? We can't rely on Earth for support anymore. We've been cut loose. We're entirely on our own. Yes, you're right. The road is long, and we haven't a moment to waste. We must begin the revival process immediately, starting with the Hope's brightest minds, and then we're going to fix this damn colony, one problem at a time. We're going to need a leader, and I can't imagine a better person for the job than you. What do you say, old friend? Will you help us? I can't tell you how glad I am to hear that. When I revived you, I thought we were going to save this colony all by ourselves. But I was wrong. We can't save Halcyon on our own. We're all going to have to pull together, somehow. We are not a colony anymore. Our last connection to Earth has been severed. I don't know if we'll survive, but we're going to have to try our best.
Pues ha estado muy guapo. No sé si esto es el final o no, pero...
The OSI teaches that everything in the universe happens according to the grand plan. But the stranger that arrived in Halcyon was an unplanned variable. From the moment he landed in Emerald Vale, his actions altered the course of history. The events on Tartarus brought about the end of the board's authority. But the board's mistakes would haunt the colony for decades to come. The damage they left behind would require the work of a generation to repair. Dr. Phineas Wells began reviving a handful of the Hope's colonists: engineers, scientists, technicians, and intellectuals. They were among the brightest minds the Earth had ever sent out into the stars. The Hope scientists and engineers woke up in a colony descending headlong into total collapse. With no way to return to Earth, they had no choice but to band together and devote themselves to the cause of saving Halcyon. The people of Halcyon were nothing if not hardy. In the absence of the board's authority, many of the colony's settlements banded together with a single purpose in mind: survival. Life was especially hard in the years to come. Some towns dissolved by attrition and starvation, but most of them found a way to carry on. In the years to come, Halcyon was forced to reckon with its newfound freedom. The board was gone, and for better or worse, the colony was responsible for its own destiny. Sanjar's civil liberties and worker-centric policies were slow to catch on with the other corporations. But as Halcyon began its long, arduous journey toward recovery, many of Terra 2's smaller townships started adopting MSI's alternative corporate structure, and eventually became entirely self-sufficient. In the coming years, many of these townships managed to eke by, where otherwise they might have starved. Consumed by paranoia, Lilia Hagen took Sublight Salvage in a controversial direction, openly accusing board officials of an extraterrestrial conspiracy. One day, an accident at the Groundbreaker's docking bay silenced her forever. Time would tell if her replacement could keep the Sublight family together. Adelaide McDevitt replaced Reed Thompson as the leader of Edgewater. She and her followers transformed Edgewater in their image. Anyone loyal to Reed was pressured into leaving town, and those who stayed behind adapted to her way of life. Adelaide transformed the old cannery into a new garden. The nearby Edgewater Cemetery provided a convenient source of fertilizer. Under the leadership of Junlei Tennyson, the Groundbreaker held firm against corporate influence. The ship's mechanical stability gave Junlei the time to educate a promising generation of engineers, schooled in her family's traditions. The future of the Groundbreaker looks promising. The rediscovery of the Hope and the abandonment of the lifetime employment program forced Byzantium to come to terms with some uncomfortable realities about the state of Halcyon. While Byzantines were reluctant to surrender the luxuries they'd grown accustomed to, the board's diminished authority gave them little choice in the matter. Nearly everyone had to learn to make do with less. Some even had to get jobs. It was a dark time.
Algunos incluso tuvieron que trabajar, dice. Qué cara.
Ellie savored her adventures on the Unreliable. Once they were done, she returned to life as usual, running missions of dubious legality, shunning respectable work, and living life to the fullest. She meant to reach out to her one-time captain, but she was always bad at keeping in touch. Life in Halcyon was sobering for Felix Millstone. The grand revolution he dreamed of never came. There was no great awakening for the colony, no celebrations in the streets. There was only the hard, desperate work of trying to repair a broken colony. Felix never had a head for numbers, but if there was labor to be done, he was there to help. Eventually, Felix realized that the work of a revolution was done with two hands. As much as he enjoyed his adventures aboard the Unreliable, the vicar, known as Max, eventually decided that it was time to move on, to live out the life he had sought so long to create. He knew there were many in the colony who carried burdens much worse than the ones he had struggled with, and he devoted himself to easing their suffering wherever he could. He only ever took up arms again to defend the defenseless. unshackled from a lifetime of striving and fighting the universe and himself, Vicar Maximilian de Soto was finally at peace. Though Parvati eventually grew comfortable aboard the Unreliable, she never quite came out of her shell. She seemed to prefer the company of Ada to the crew, and she could often be found neck-deep in cables and grease, telling Ada funny stories from her childhood. While the colony fell into chaos, she found an island of relative peace with Ada, and they formed an unusual bond. She decided to remain aboard the Unreliable permanently as its chief and sole engineer. Nyoka returned to Monarch to take another crack at making a permanent life for herself. She formed the Charon Group, an MSI subsidiary of ragtag survivalists and wilderness experts. Anyone in need of a guide, or just looking to throw back a beer and swap stories, could find her camping on the trail or clearing an infestation. The SAM unit that accompanied you spread awareness of the product line's superior sanitation and maintenance capabilities across what was left of the colony. This led to a boost in SAM unit sales. Did you know that SAM units are the longest-lasting, toughest-acting cleaning solution in Halcyon? Minister Clark was released from house arrest, and his contact with you gave him a sense of renewed purpose and vigor. Once it became clear that no help would be coming from Earth, he threw his considerable efforts and talents into helping Halcyon manage the crisis before it. As for Dr. Phineas Wells, he spent his remaining years in his orbital lab. Though he was always haunted by the failures of his past, he was determined to make things right by building toward the future. The revival project was hard and painful work, but in the end, despite limited resources, over half the Hope's colonists were successfully revived. Even after Wells passed away, the Hope scientists and engineers worked night and day to pull Halcyon from the brink of collapse. Their efforts continue to this day, which may be reason enough for optimism. Dr. Wells laid the groundwork for the project to save the colony, but he would never live to see the fruits of his labor. He passed away a few years later. His work was carried on by the scientists and engineers he revived. Life will never be the same in Halcyon. It is widely agreed that the colony has a chance of stabilizing within a generation, owing to the hard work and determination of the surviving colonists. Recovery is a distant goal, and the path is long and uncertain. But the people of Halcyon carry on, determined as ever. And what about you, the unplanned variable in the history of Halcyon? Long after Wells passed away, you carried on his work with more energy, determination, and brilliance than he could ever muster. The years that followed were hard, but Halcyon survived by the efforts of the Hope's most promising colonists, the greatest of which was you. No one knows what's happened to Earth, and no one knows what the future has in store for Halcyon. All we know for certain is this: the name of the Unreliable and that of its intrepid captain will remain the subject of countless stories for years to come.
Pues sí, muy guapo, tío. Muy guapo ha estado, tío. Me ha encantado el juego, tío. Muy guapo. O sea, todavía quedaba seguro con una burrada de misiones por hacer. O sea, muy guapo. Además tiene varios finales porque yo podría haber entregado a Phineas. Muy guapo, tío. Muy guapo, lo recomiendo. Lo recomiendo. Ha estado increíble. Muy chulo, sí. Bueno, pues ha llegado el final de esta increíble historia. Espero que os haya gustado. Espero que os haya entretenido, ayudado y, sobre todo, disfrutado. Like, suscribirse y hasta pronto. Chao, chao.